Okay, so Black Clover Chapter 298 is out, and this honestly might be the darkest chapter that we've gotten since 2021 started. I mean, seriously, I don't think I felt this level of dread and excitement after reading a chapter of Black Clover since, honestly, the ending of the original 3 Dark Triad fights, back when we thought Yuno was dead, when Yami got kidnapped, and when Vanica kidnapped Lord Pratika and left Noelle and the rest of them for dead in the Heart Kingdom. That's how dark the events of this chapter is. And honestly, we got to a point in this chapter at the end of it where I don't honestly see how Tabata can write out Noelle winning this thing unless Asta shows up in his Devil Union mode and just saves the day for everyone. Actually, I did just think of a way that Noelle could still come out on top of this without Asta's help, but we'll get to that later on in the video. Anyway, the chapter picks up where the last one left off, with Mekihua making her grand appearance in the human world, and as soon as she shows up, Noelle starts to question how she's here so early, considering only the first gate of the Tree of Qliphoth ritual has actually been activated, and since Mekihua, Xenon's Devil, and Lucifero are like the top tier 3 devils of the underworld, they shouldn't be able to come out of these earlier gates. They should have to wait until like the last 3 gates at the very least before they can come out into the human world. And Mekihua pretty much tells Noelle, well yeah, the Tree of Qliphoth ritual is one way for me to get into the human world, but it's not the only ritual I have at my disposal. And this is when she pretty much repeats what she said at the end of the last chapter, although she does go into a little bit more detail so we can fully understand how her personal ritual works. And if you read the chapter once, you can pretty much understand it just by reading it that one time. So pretty much the way that Mekikua's ritual works is that first she needs to form a contract with an incredibly powerful mage. Obviously she did that by forming a contract with Vanica. And then she needs to go on and kill 2 other mages of the same sex who are also very powerful in themselves, which she started that ritual off by killing off Aesir. Which, by the way, after each sacrifice, she's able to bring herself into the human world even more. So remember back during the original fight with her and Noelle when Mekihua took over half of Vanica's body in that hybrid form, as I was calling it back then? Apparently she gained that ability after they killed off Aesir. So yeah, once she sacrificed Aesir, she just needs to sacrifice 2 more incredibly powerful female mages, which obviously are going to be Lord Pratika and Vanica. Which, by the way, the reason why she can actually show up in her incomplete physical form in the human world right now is because Vanica was on the verge of death in the last chapter. So that kinda started up the ritual again, but she needs Vanica to fully die in order for her to really get her physical form. Now, this is cool and all, and I actually kind of dig the fact that, you know, the devils actually have their own separate rituals besides just a Tree of Qliphoth to actually make their way into the human world. But it really makes me wonder, and I brought this up in the last chapter review, why did she wait 17 years before going about trying to kill off the next 2 victims for her ritual? Because I mean, assuming that Mekihua always planned on sacrificing Vanica for the ritual, you're telling me that in the 15 to 17 years since they killed Aesir, they couldn't find one more incredibly powerful female mage besides Lord Pratika to sacrifice for it? I mean, just right off the back of my head, I can think of Mariel Yona, who was Aesir's student, and probably one of the strongest characters that we've been introduced to in the entirety of the series as far as humans go. And even if she wasn't strong enough back then, there's still the Witch Queen. I mean, the only real reason I could think of as to why they waited so long besides plot is because of the fact that, and someone actually mentioned this in my last review as well, but they probably didn't want to step on Lucifero's toes and get in the way of his ritual, which will allow him to come into the human world as well. But based on the way that Mekihua acts in this chapter, I don't really think she cares too much about Lucifero's opinion on things. And on top of that, regardless if she had activated her ritual or she waited till the Tree of Qliphoth started, she still would have came out of the underworld prior to Lucifero. So by her coming out first using her own ritual, she could have jump-started the ritual for the Tree of Qliphoth a long time ago, or at the very least, things would be going a lot smoother with her being in the human world in her full form than it currently is right now. So it just would have been a benefit for her to be in the human world prior to all of this. So that's not really an excuse as to why she didn't use her own ritual. And you know, after rereading the chapter, I think it pretty much just comes down to that Mekihua is just kinda out to have fun, sorta like how it was for Vanica. And that's the reason why she's been waiting so long, because even in this chapter, when all she has to do is kill off Lord Pratika and Vanica, she still does not do it. And actually, speaking of Lord Pratika, we end up finding out that the reason why she has this demonic appearance now is because Mekihua twisted the curse that she gave her, and apparently somehow turned her, and this is in the fan translation, I'm guessing it's going to be switched in the official translation to a demon, but in the fan translation, she says that she somehow turned Lord Pratika into a devil. Again, I think this is going to be switched in the official translation to just being a demon because As far as we're aware, there's no way for a human to actually be turned into a devil. And we actually spend a good chunk of this chapter watching the demonified Lord Bertica fight off against Gaja. And this might have actually been the most heartbreaking thing to watch because of the fact that we get reconfirmed at the beginning of the fight to how devoted to Lord Bertica Gaja actually is. And we knew this going into the chapter because of their previous interactions. But we end up seeing that during the flashback when Lord Bertica realized that she couldn't learn any attack magic, Gaja decided that in order to protect her from the battlefield and make sure that she never has to worry about fighting a day in her life, he would become the strongest attack mage in the entirety of the Heart Kingdom, which he most definitely succeeded in being since he was the only spirit guardian who didn't die or come close to death when Vonica attacked the Heart Kingdom. But it ultimately ends up being his devotion to Lord Bertica that really gets in his way during the fight, because in the beginning of it, Lord Bertica actually brings out this brand new attack called Demon Water Magic Hydra the Dark Abyss, which pretty much just looks like these giant, like 9, I think maybe 10, gigantic, like demonic looking worms that get sent at him. But Gaja pretty easily dodges every attack that Lord Bertica sends at him in this chapter. And just as he's actually going in to attack her back, but because of how devoted he is to her, he ends up hesitating, which gives her the open shot to stab him right through the chest. So more than likely, I mean probably not because this is Black Clover, but it very much seems like Gaja ends up dying halfway through this chapter by Lord Bertica. Now, I mean, like I said, this is Black Clover. Most characters don't end up dying, even though we see them look like they're dead on screen. So more than likely, Gaja's going to end up being fine. But I kind of think that his morality or his mortality is going to basically determine Lord Bertica's as well. If Gaja ends up dying, I definitely think that Lord Bertica dies along with him, because I can't see the Bada wanting her to live with the guilt of having killed her longest protector. Which, on the one hand, that would be kinda okay because that would mean that Noelle gets to keep Udine as her permanent power-up. But at the same time, like I said, I like Lord Bertica's character. I kinda was just hoping that by the end of this arc, she would get to go back to the Heart Kingdom and just kind of live a peaceful life going forward. So personally, I don't want her or Gaja to die, but story-wise, if you really want to show that this arc has stakes, killing them off would be the perfect way to do it. And Gaja might not have been the only character to die in this chapter, because while the two of them are fighting, we have Noelle taking the fight directly to Megakula, and she tries to use her Sea Dragon's Roar on her, but Megakula says that she's too strong and too fast for that magic to actually work on her anymore. And this is actually when she tries to counterattack with some kind of curse magic, but we see that Charlotte actually uses her own magic to counteract the curse. So this is where Charlotte and Rio decide to come back into play, and even though they're completely outmatched, they are actually being pretty helpful in the beginning parts of this chapter. Because we have Charlotte warding off the curse with her Briar magic, and we have Rio acting as a way to protect her. And it's actually kind of cool the way that Rio tries to protect Charlotte in this chapter, because he actually gets inspired for his brand new magic by Noelle. And what he does is he actually uses picture magic Twilight of Valhalla to create this giant castle around the two of them, and send out Valkyries as a way to defend themselves against Megakula. But unfortunately, Megakula easily breaks through the defenses using these curse magic, curse warding uncontrolled slave, which is pretty much just a bunch of like magic spikes that she sends out through the castle that stabs through both of them, kind of leaving them for dead at the end of the chapter. So yeah, there's 3 unconfirmed but kinda seemingly confirmed deaths in this chapter alone, although like I said, I don't think that any of them, because it's Black Clover, are going to end up dying. But if the Bada really wants to, you know, drive home sales and really show that this arc matters, one of these characters might end up staying dead. And then once Noelle realizes what happened to Charlotte and Rio, she immediately gets pissed off and heads straight to Megakula, but because it's been over a minute, her saint form drops because she only had the 1 minute time limit. So now at the end of the chapter, we leave off with Megakula overpowering Noelle and ready to kill her. So yeah, this is why I said in the beginning of the video that the Bada kinda leaves Noelle in a situation where it seems like the only way she's gonna be able to walk away alive is if Asta actually shows up and saves her from Megakula. But I did think of a way that Noelle herself could possibly end up beating Megakula with a little bit of help from everyone else in the room. So basically what I think could happen is that Noelle could actually achieve the power, or a power close to her saint form, by herself without actually having to rely on Udine. Because we did see through Aesir that this level of power is achievable by a normal person without actually being tied to a spirit. And since more than likely by the end of this arc, assuming that Lord Bertica survives, Udine's going to be going back to her, Noelle, in order to stay in the same kind of power level that Asta and Yuno are, she needs to achieve this level of power by herself. So what I think is going to end up happening is that Tabata is going to give Noelle this power up by herself without actually having to combine with Udine, and then we're going to end up finding out that Charlotte and Real and possibly somehow Robochica breaks her curse, but everyone else is going to be fine, and then all together they're going to be strong enough to just barely beat Megakula. But yeah, that's pretty much my quick prediction as to how Noelle could still win this fight without having to rely on Asta. But let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about my prediction. Do you think it's going to come true? Or do you think Asta's just going to show up and actually be the one to defeat Megakula for Noelle? Let me know in the comment section down below what you think. That's it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait to read next chapter with the way this one left off. It's going to be exciting as long as Tabata does not cut away from this fight. But like I said, that's it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate that. Comment down below your thoughts and theories on the chapter, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.